Hello and welcome. It is, um, looks like it's just about time to start, but we will give some time for people to log in and join. While we wait, it would be great if you are open and willing to drop in the chat. Maybe what brought you to this particular class today, what you're looking to get out of it, any questions you might have at the onset, so I kind of know what you are looking to learn today. And yeah, I hope to have a lively discussion and teach some things about habits to support healthy sleep. So we'll give a few minutes here to let people kind of get situated and enter the webinar. Thank you, Rachel. It looks like you're looking to find some things to help get better sleep throughout the night. That is excellent. We will touch on a number of things and why it's so important to get sleep throughout the night. All right, and we'll just give a couple more minutes here, and then we will get started. All right, let's dive in. So welcome, you are here. We are going to talk about habits to support healthy sleep and why it's so important to get good quality sleep. As way of introduction, my name is Sarah Jastram. I'm a pharmacist. I work under the business of the coffee shop pharmacist. Not only do I work as a pharmacist and provide functional medicine and then also regular dispensing at various pharmacies around the Twin Cities metro where I am located, but I also am a gardener. I keep chickens. I have a long history of teaching and doing art. And then I love to cook and explore the outdoors. And so all of these things kind of inform both my functional medicine practice and then kind of my interest in how to maintain health, because it's really important to be able to be healthy and well. And one of those aspects is sleep. It's really, really difficult to, be able to enjoy the northern Minnesota lakes if you are really tired. It's also important to know how to get good, healthy sleep if you are doing a fair amount of traveling, learning how to utilize some habits to help you get consistent sleep, regardless of the location where you're at. So let's dive in and talk about our modern environment. So this is really, I think, there's a juxtaposition, right? We want to focus on our health, but then we have all these societal pressures that maybe get in the way. And this is especially true for sleep. Whether it's the autoplay on your Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu accounts that automatically plays the next episode. So it's very, very easy to continue watching a show when really you should be going to bed. We have readily available stimulants like coffee. We have readily available sedatives like alcohol, but both of these things can inhibit really good quality sleep. And then there's also the societal pressure to partake and enjoy these things. Maybe we do just enjoy them because they're delicious, but maybe also we work in a fast paced environment where we feel like we need to be on all the time. And so that caffeine from our couple of cups of coffee helps facilitate that. And then because we're so wound up from drinking the coffee throughout the day, it's really hard to relax at night, or we go out with friends. And then there's the societal pressure to have a drink or two or three in the evening that can really inhibit our sleep. And then not only that, but sometimes we are in situations where our routines don't match with maybe our personal sleep patterns and who we are. So whether we're somebody who thrives by waking up early or somebody who thrives by waking up or staying up later at night and getting sleep more early in the day, our modern work schedule might be in conflict with that. If you're somebody who prefers to and finds that they just get work done later in the evening in a much more effective manner, having a job that starts at 7:30, 8 o'clock can be really detrimental because that's not when you are physically going to be the most productive. We also live in an environment of screens and of lights, and we have so much artificial light that we don't necessarily have that clear circadian rhythm anymore of clear times of darkness and clear times of nice, bright, full spectrum sunlight. And so all of these things play into how our sleep can become dysregulated, and then also why it can be really difficult to maintain healthy sleep patterns and get really good quality sleep because, it's really difficult to tell your friends, you know what, it's 8 o'clock, I have to go home and go to bed. And they're like, well, can't you just stay for another drink or another dance, or we want to watch a movie or play another game, whatever it happens to be. Can be really difficult, especially if, post-COVID, we're really craving that time of connection and that time of rebuilding those friendships and those communal networks. And so I think that this is a timely conversation and really beneficial one to have, to say, you know what, we need to work not just on ourselves individually, but also to share this information with our friends and family and say, no, it's really important that we get good quality sleep. We help each other do that. And so that then we all can thrive, right? So why is it so important that we sleep? What exactly happens when we sleep? We know that sleep is necessary, not because it would be unethical for people to do studies where they deprive them to the point of severe mental and physical harm, right? We can't necessarily do that, but we look at all all different species and see that almost all of them sleep. And from that, we say, okay, there is a certain necessity of sleep. Something happens during sleep that is a necessity for continued health and wellness, because almost all species sleep. And as we've learned about sleep, it's not just this time where we kind of lose consciousness. We're generally not moving, our eyes are closed, but it's this time of intense repair where our body isn't busy doing all of the things it does during the day. It really focuses inwards and helps clear out toxins. It is a time of growth and regeneration where our body can really focus on that healing and repair from the wear and tear of the day. The cells in our body do work all day long, and they do work all night long, but we really decrease the energy load that we're utilizing while we sleep. And so our cells have time to kind of clean house and fix things that might have gotten broken during the day. So there's this process of repair. It's also a time of learning. So especially with our children and adolescents, this is a time when those fundamental concepts that they're learning in school or in life and on the playground, that is getting solidified and built into their brain and really consolidated, and they're learning it. Their brain is processing that information. Some people, will talk about, I had this problem that I was thinking about when I went to bed, and then when I woke up, I had a solution. And that's because our brain doesn't go to sleep. Our brain doesn't stop working. It actually works in a slightly different way as we sleep, and it starts putting together connections and figuring out problems. So learning happens. We actually do a lot of energy production while we're sleeping. We use energy throughout the day. Every single cell needs energy to function. And so it is a time when our body is basically kind of setting up like, all right, we're going to put up some extra energy so that then we're ready to go. We can hit the road running when we wake up. Growth happens when we sleep. And this is really important, not just for children and adolescents. And you'll see later that we'll talk kind of a little bit about children and adolescents and how they're a little bit different when it comes to sleep than adults. In children and adolescents, they have growth hormone, which is one of the compounds that is secreted that basically says, you know what, it's time to grow. We need to grow. We need to get bigger. We need to get stronger. That makes sense. They're children and adolescents, right? They're going through this period of their life where they're growing. But as adults, we're not actively getting taller per se, because we don't have that growth hormone continually being secreted into the body throughout the day and night. But what happens is we actually secrete growth hormone at night, and that is when we help to build and repair muscle. And so this is really especially important as we are adults and our older adult population, that they're getting good quality sleep so that they're having this secretion of growth hormone that helps with muscle maintenance. And maintaining muscle mass is important because we want to be able to continue to walk, maintain our balance, maintain our quality of life and independent living. All of these things rely on the fact that we are able to get ourselves around and move around within our environment, which is important to have nice, good, strong muscles for, correct? And then next is memory. So I think this is kind of one of the first places, and when they started studying sleep, they realized that memory becomes consolidated. That means the neural networks, the networks within our brain, make connections and store those memories, move things from short-term into long-term. And so that we really build and store those memories. And this ties into that learning aspect, to be able to process that and then utilize it later. And so sleep is this dynamic, busy time. We just are unaware of it. We are not cognizant of these things happening. It kind of happens behind the scenes. So not everything happens all at once. It's not like we lay down in bed, we fall asleep, and then all of a sudden we're repairing and we're storing memories and we're doing things. There's stages to sleep. So I think it's pretty common that we've heard of REM sleep, which is rapid eye movements. That's one stage of sleep. And then there's this other set that's actually 3 different stages. It's called non-REM sleep. And so the very first stage, you lay down in bed and you close your eyes and you're relaxing and you're kind of waiting for that. I like to think of it as like falling off of a cliff, that drop into unconsciousness when you're fully asleep. Stage 1 is that like walking towards the precipice, walking towards the ability to drop into that deep sleep. So you're relaxed, and it's a stage between being asleep and awake. And then we have stage 2, where it's very light sleep. You have much slower brain waves than what you would have in stage 1 when you're a little more active. Your brain is kind of thinking about some things. And then your body temperature actually drops a degree, half a degree to a degree. And you're still kind of in between being asleep and awake. So in this stage 2, I like to think you're kind of hovering right on that edge between being fully unconscious and, unaware of what's going on, and then a more conscious state when you're waiting to fall asleep. So it's right in that in-between space. And then stage 3, you have jumped off of the diving board or the cliff or whatever it is, and you are in this deepest sleep. You have the slowest heartbeat and breathing that you have in stage 3. When you're in all of these stages, your muscles are very, very relaxed, which allows your capillaries, your blood vessels, to open up, and you have increased blood flow, increased energy production. And this is where you have that growth and repair happening. And you have kind of cleansing processes going on. And one of the things they've noticed is that actually not just the blood vessels open up, but your brain and your cerebrospinal fluid actually pulses. And it is time when your brain is cleaning house, which I think is a pretty fascinating and amazing thing to think of, is why this is so important. Is this is a time that your brain is cleaning up. And then this is also when we have that hormone, that growth hormone release. And then we have some other hormones that get released to help stabilize our blood sugars through the night and help with overall well-being. And then from stage 3, we move into rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. And here, our heartbeat and our breathing change and are rather flexible. You might have some really rapid heartbeats and then some slower ones. You might have rapid breathing or slower breathing. And your brain and body are very energized. There are things going on. This is a place where your brain is working on building those connections. Your eyes move, but the rest of your body doesn't. You actually can't move. There is some concern. You might have some concerns if you have disordered sleeping and your body does act these things out. This is a situation where you would need to talk to a physician to make sure that they can address it appropriately and make sure that you stay safe. Your temperature is less regulated. So you might find that you get really warm or really cold and pull on more covers or kick off covers. And so this is yet another stage. And then we actually cycle back to that stage 1 and stage 2. And we do this cycle 3 to 4 times throughout the night. So sleep is dynamic, and there are different stages that we go through as we sleep. But sleep can go awry, right? We have all probably had a night where we didn't sleep very well, or it was difficult falling asleep. Maybe we had to wake up really early and we stayed up really late so that it was we just didn't get enough sleep. Maybe there was something going on. We were really anxious about something and we kept waking up through the night. Or maybe you're in a place in your life where you have a newborn, right? And the newborn wakes you up because they're hungry. And it's your job as its mother to feed it, or it's your job as its father to take care of the diapers so that your partner can continue to sleep and get the sleep that they need. And then there is this idea of non-restorative sleep. So you get 7 to 8, maybe 9 hours of sleep. It feels like you slept the whole night, but you're just still tired during the day. And so there's a lot of different ways that this can go awry. And why do we care, right? So it might be really uncomfortable and it might be unpleasant to be tired throughout the day, but there's actually deeper concerns. It's not just that it's unpleasant. It's not just that we struggle with it, but lack of sleep is actually associated with a very high number of other health conditions and socioeconomic concerns. Less productivity at work, more mistakes within the workplace. Car accidents is very possible when we don't have enough sleep. But not just that socioeconomic, those day-to-day living sorts of things, but also lack of sleep is associated with heart disease and type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, which when I talk with patients and I say, they come to me and they say, Sarah, I've got high blood pressure. I'd like some help figuring it out, or I'm on the brink of a type 2 diabetes diagnosis. I'd like to get things under control. And I say, okay, well, let's talk about sleep. They're like, why do I need to? It's because we have such a dynamic healing process that happens when we're asleep that when those things don't happen, our body suffers. When we don't have that cleaning and repair, things go awry, things go wrong. Cells get out of out of control. We have cancer. We're not able to consolidate memories, and we don't get the cleaning within our brain. There's that Alzheimer's and dementia. Our immune system can't be quite as regulated. There's an increased risk of infection. All of these things are associated with a lack of sleep. And really, it's really important, not just because you might, car accidents could be fatal, but heart disease can be fatal. Complications from type 2 diabetes can be fatal, right? So it's not just, sleep is not just something that, we can push to the side. It's really something we need to prioritize when we are looking at health and wellness. So sleep is not just important, it is essential for our health and well-being. But how much? So this is interesting. I think, sometimes we think, oh, well, if sleep is so important, I should get a lot of it. But really, you can have too much. And it depends on how old you are. Remember, I talked about children and adolescents, and then I talked about adults. This is a situation where, depending on where you're at in your stage of life, depends on how much sleep you should get. And so this is according to the World Health Organization and the CDC. Infants and babies require more sleep. Our toddlers, slightly less. Children slowly decrease the amount of sleep, but still they're looking at, 12 to 14 hours of sleep in a night. So this is really important when we're thinking about school-age children, and depending on school times and then extracurricular and after school activities, making sure that we are prioritizing sleep and helping them get that sleep, especially as their parents, because they are going to model the sort of behavior and the sort of lives that we live, and they learn from our behaviors. So if we don't prioritize sleep, they don't think it's important. Teens need a little bit less, and then adults, I have here 7 or more, but really it's 7 to 9. They've found that less than 7, we start seeing some of those detrimental health effects. And then more than 9, so pushing 10 or 11, we still see some of those detrimental health effects, and we start to get concerned about mental health issues and depression, where we need to make sure that we're sleeping appropriately, but we're also getting out and involving ourselves in our daily lives and not spending too much time sleeping. So, question for you, how much sleep are you getting? I think this is a good moment to stop and kind of say, hey, how much sleep did I get last night? Did I get a full 7 to 9 hours, or was it slightly less? And then also being cognizant of where you're at in your stage of life, and then what sort of pressures you have on you. Are you working a 9 to 5 sort of job, or is it more of a 10-hour or 12-hour day? Are you negotiating early school times or later school times or later extracurricular or hobbies that push later into the evening? And then how cognizant are you of your body's conversation with you, with your body's ability to say, you know what, I'm tired. It's time to sleep. It's time to turn off your phone. It's time to go home. It's time to turn the lights down, because it is time to go to sleep. And I think we don't prioritize, and we don't necessarily talk about this. And then because we don't talk about it, we don't necessarily think about it ourselves, right? And so bringing back some of that body awareness to really stop and say, am I tired right now? Is it time to go to bed? And then also on the flip side, when you're laying in bed in the morning, being cognizant to say, you know what, I want to hit snooze. It's warm and cozy here, but is my body actually ready to get up? Maybe it is. And it's just that we have a certain level of inertia that we don't want to get up in the morning. So being cognizant of where we're at physically, I think, is really beneficial. So with all of this, what can you do to sleep better? First thing, go to sleep and get up at the same time every day. This is incredibly beneficial and can be really helpful to maintain that rhythm of our sleep. And the reason why is because we are creatures of habit. Our body actually has genes and processes within the cells in our brain that put us onto pretty close to a 24-hour cycle, really closely associated with daylight and darkness. And so maintaining that cycle every single day really helps to solidify that when it's time to sleep, it's time to sleep. And when it's time to wake up, it's time to wake up. And this can be tricky because oftentimes we say, I'm going to stay awake, or I'm going to add a bunch of hours to my work and work extra during the week. And then I'm going to catch up, right? I'm going to catch up my sleep on the weekend. But really, sleep debt, that idea that I'm shorting myself on sleep now and I'm going to pay it back later, that can only really be repaid within the same 24-hour block. Once those toxins are built up, we need to clean them out. And if we don't clean them out right away, that damage gets done. And so you can get some of your sleep back, but you're not going to get all of it because you don't get all of that full sleep cycles when you take a nap during the day or when you try to get extra sleep through the night. So keeping your schedule even on the weekends and similar to your weekdays can be really beneficial because it helps reinforce that time that your hormones get released to wake us up and your hormones get released to make us fall asleep. And then being sure that because we're consistent, we're not necessarily accruing sleep debt. Next is keep your evenings dark. And this is really important. Remember, I said that our body works on this cycle where we have hormonal releases based on the amount of light that's coming into our body. And this is actually the release of melatonin. And so when when it becomes darker, melatonin release increases. And then after a certain period of time, once we've done the amount of cleaning our body needs to do and gets everything ready to go, we actually have an increase in our cortisol production and release. That's a stress hormone that basically prepares us for the stress of waking up, the stress of our day. Not that our days should be really stressful, but that we're suddenly in a more active state in comparison to that sleeping state. So keeping our evenings dark can reinforce that melatonin release. So to do that, turn off screens at least an hour, ideally 2 hours before bed. So this can be really difficult because we live in a time when people watch TV before they go to bed or they're on their phones. But putting those phones down before we go to bed can be really, really powerful. Limit the number of lights that you have turned on in your house. We have all this artificial light that helps extend our day. If you're in the northern hemisphere and it's wintertime, your nights are darker. Take advantage of that. When it's summer, your nights are a little bit brighter and maybe you stay up a little bit later and you're outside more and you're a little more active. But maintain that schedule. And maybe you need to use dark blackout curtains to help keep your space dark in the summer. And then I have patients who say, well, Sarah, what am I going to do? Like, I wanted to watch, the next season of the Great British Baking Show, or I wanted to catch up on this show or that show. And I say, you know what? It's a time to really go back to fundamentals of self-care, relax mindfully, take time to read a book on paper with an incandescent light or a very warm LED light, turn down low, but not too low, so that you can read safely with maintaining the health of your eyes. Maybe it's a time for you to reflect on your day or prepare for the following day. Take time to meditate, clear your mind, or pray. These are all things you can do within those 2 hours that don't necessarily require a screen and really can help focus on that self-care. Next, keep it cool. This is really beneficial. Remember, I said in stage 2 sleep, our body temperature actually drops. Keeping it cool helps facilitate that process. And so if we facilitate that process, it's easier for us to fall asleep. So that lower body temperature helps to initiate sleep. But they've also found that warmer temperatures in the house may lessen time in REM sleep. And so it's really important that if you keep your house a little bit cooler, your house or apartment, that then you can have more consistent sleep through the night. And then utilizing high quality sheets and blankets so that they keep you warm when their body temperature is fluctuating, but when your body temperature drops a little bit, and they keep you cool when your body temperature rises, especially because in that REM stage, we're a little bit more labile when it comes to our body temperature. And then this may not necessarily be a concern in the winter, but in the summer, when we've got that nice, warm, glorious sun coming in, we want to make sure that we either utilize a fan or we keep the bedroom kind of dark so that it doesn't get quite so hot in the summer. Maybe utilize a air conditioner to keep that space cool to help sleep. And then next, oftentimes, we don't necessarily think about preparing for sleep in the morning because we're getting up, right? But getting exercise during the day really has been shown to be beneficial in the sleep we get from at night. So the CDC recommendation is that every week, adults need 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical exercise or activity, and then 2 days of muscle strengthening activity per week. And so this can be anything from, a run or a jog, but it could also be vacuuming, house cleaning, gardening, walking the dog. I like to make sure that people are cognizant that it doesn't necessarily mean you hit the gym and you lift weights it can be picking up children, maybe it's picking up your grandkids or picking up your children and just kind of playing with them and making sure that you're active. Moderate intensity is defined as, you can think of it if you're going on a walk with your friend, that you can talk to them, but you cannot sing to them because they would be out of breath. And you might think like, okay, well, that means I might have to exercise in the morning, but really it's not true. The time of day is less important than actually getting that movement. They have found that a more intense exercise in the evening may inhibit your ability to fall asleep. Morning exercise may help you fall asleep faster, but they also have found that evening exercise may increase the quality of your sleep. And so this might be something that evening exercise is maybe less intense that you do in those 2 hours when the screen is off, that you are building in a more mindful movement practice and you're getting movement in and a little bit of strength training in that darker evening time to just prepare yourself for sleep. Next is limit caffeine and alcohol. And I know when I've given this presentation in the past, I have a lot of people who say, but Sarah, these things make my mornings amazing and my evenings even better. And I say, well, it doesn't mean that you can't drink coffee and you shouldn't have the glass of wine or the delicious craft brew or a nice cocktail, but really being cognizant of how much we're drinking, either of those things. And so the reason why is because in our coffee and tea and cola and energy drinks, there is caffeine, and caffeine actually inhibits our ability to fall asleep. It specifically sits on receptors that promote sleep. It sits on receptors that stop you from being able to fall asleep. And so I recommend that anybody who's struggling to maintain good and healthy sleep, no caffeinated beverages after 3 p.m. And you might find after you've done that for a while that maybe you need to cut back on the 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. cups of coffee or tea or cola, because you might find that your body actually takes a lot of time to process that caffeine. There's a number of genetic variations that can change how a body processes caffeine. And so you might be somebody who just processes it more slowly than somebody else. And if it's processed slowly, it sticks around longer. Limiting the number of glasses of wine, beer, or spirits to 1 for women or 2 for men. This is important because Alcohol is a sedative, which means it helps us to fall asleep. But once our body metabolizes and processes that alcohol, we lose that sedative effect. And so then you wake up. And so the way to kind of deal with this, and I give people coaching on it, is that if you're going to have a glass of wine, make sure you're having it with food and you're having it earlier in the evening, or that beer or that cocktail, because then you are slowing down that alcohol absorption, but you're also helping your body have time to metabolize it before you actually are going to sleep. So you're not using it to help you fall asleep. You are maybe enjoying it as part of a meal or enjoying it as part of a social gathering. And you're giving your body time to process it before you do go to sleep. The other thing is that it really, alcohol in and of itself disrupts our ability to get into deep sleep, that stage 3 sleep. And so we want to limit it because we need that deep sleep to happen for that good cleaning and growth and repair. So making sure that we're limiting that amount. And then this goes for other sedatives and other stimulants as well. So if you're taking a medication that's a stimulant, or you're drinking maybe like yerba mate or something else that has more stimulating properties, making sure you're moving those to earlier in the day as opposed to later in the day. So I am a pharmacist. I'm giving a presentation on sleep. I would be remiss if I did not talk about supplements and sleep aids. This is a quick overview. I'm not necessarily promoting that you take any one of these, but I want to give you a general idea of some things that are out there and some maybe benefits that they may have, or maybe some things to think about if you are looking for something to help you sleep. I like to let everyone know to make sure that they talk to either their pharmacist or their physician to make sure that these are appropriate for their particular situation. And if you are on any other medications or you're taking any other supplements, that you're talking with somebody who's going to know. So a pharmacist or physician or the prescriber, to just make sure that they're aware of all the things that you're taking. Melatonin is a hormone that is released that helps initiate the sleep process. You can buy it as an over-the-counter supplement. And it's really been found best for patients who are dealing with shift work or cross time zone travel. That's really where the studies and the literature supports its use. 1 to 3 milligrams. You can buy really strong or really high milligram tablets of melatonin. I always recommend that my patients, if they're interested in doing this, that they start low and they go slow to see how it affects their body. And then this is important to be aware of. It does take about an hour to an hour and a half to be fully effective. So make sure that you're not driving in that period of time, but also that you don't take it right when you're putting your head on the pillow, because it is going to take some time to be fully effective. So it may be that if you've tried melatonin and it didn't work, I would consider, okay, well, were you taking it an hour to an hour and a half before bedtime, and check and see, because that could be why it felt like it wasn't working. Next one is Benadryl, or diphenhydramine. So this is a common over-the-counter antihistamine. We use it a lot for allergic reactions, but the trouble is that it's not really intended for a sleep aid. It just happens to make us drowsy because it works both within our central system as well as our peripheral system. It can cause dry mouth, dry nose, urinary retention, and some daytime drowsiness. Because of all of this kind of drying up of our system, it's really not recommended for our older population, so those over 65 years old, because it can exacerbate some underlying health concerns that maybe you didn't even know that you had, or that you do have. And then people will often find that it is 25 to 50 milligrams 30 minutes prior to bedtime. But it may have this paradoxical effect for some people. It may actually wake you up, which is the last thing you want to have happen when you are trying to fall asleep. It's not something that I generally recommend, but I like to make sure that you're aware that it is out there. Next one is this doxylamine. So it's in the same family as Benadryl. Short-term use, The reason why both Benadryl and doxylamine, we talk about short-term use with these, is because as our body gets used to that medication, it actually acclimates to that sedative effect of the medication, and you don't find that you get tired with it or sleepy with it anymore. And I often tell my patients when they say, "But Sarah, I still feel like it makes me sleepy." And I'd say, "Well, it's because you're going to bed at the same, generally the speaking, the same time every night, or that you have trained your system to respond to the process of taking this medication as a cue that it is time to go to sleep. See what happens if you slowly go, take that medication away." Because we don't necessarily, if we've got sleep habits set, then we hopefully don't necessarily need a medication or a supplement to help us sleep. Valerian root is an herb that is relatively stinky. Some people say it has a very unpleasant smell, but it has been used for many, many years within traditional practices as a calming herb. People find it in tea or capsules or tinctures or tablet form, but there's really a potential for medication and herb interactions with valerian root. And the reason is because our body processes it through our liver, same place where our medications get processed. And so we don't, if two people are trying to go down the same entrance ramp or exit ramp at the same time, we're going to get something clogged up. So we really want to make sure that we're being safe when it comes to this particular herb and using it in a wise manner. And then next is passion flower. So this is actually, there's a picture there, this beautiful flower that is native to the southern United States. And it has some sedative and then anxiolytic, so calming anxiety properties. And the place where it really helps is if somebody has a lot of ruminating thoughts, if their inability to fall asleep stems much more from anxiety versus maybe something else that's going on. This can be something that's really beneficial because it helps to, calm some of that anxiety. We see it commonly in tinctures, capsules, or combination sleep aid products. And then because it can cause sedation, because it can make us tired, we really want to be cautious with if there's other sedating medications or herbs on board, because we don't want to be falling asleep when we're trying to do something important. And then lastly I have is GABA. So this is gamma aminobutyric acid. This is actually a neurotransmitter. So this is something our body produces naturally that inhibits processes. It is a neurotransmitter that helps to basically turn things down or turn things off. And so if you think about being awake is being turned on all of the way, being asleep is being turned off, this helps that process. Comes as capsules, may help with falling asleep more easily. There is some concern with the bioavailability, meaning how well this supplement goes from our gastrointestinal tract and gets to where we want it to work, which is in our brain. So this is one where I say, make sure that you're talking with somebody to ensure you're getting a good quality supplement that has some good data to show that it is going to be useful, because we don't want you to spend a lot of money on a supplement that doesn't get to where it needs to go in the body. So with all of this information, we're going to transition to talking a little bit about habits, but I'd like to take a moment and just say sleep is essential for health and healing. And if you're still having trouble sleeping after you have, made these sorts of changes, it's really, really important that you talk with a medical professional. And this is because problems like sleep apnea or mental health concerns, we can't solve those problems purely and utterly by keeping our rooms cool and dark and going to sleep at the same time every day and night. Those things can definitely help and may improve the quality of sleep, but if there is still trouble sleeping, this is a place where it's important to delve deeper and say really what is going on in your life and with your health so that we can support you to have really quality sleep. With that said, let's start talking about how to change habits. And the reason I put this in with my sleep my education on sleep is, I think, because it can be really, really difficult to wake up on a Saturday morning at 5:30 in the morning. It came from my struggle to actually follow these particular tips. I was struggling really hard with getting good quality sleep, and was recommended as a first step to do these specific things and follow them rigorously. And so I actually had, well, what do I do in those 2 hours? I was actually told 4 hours of low lights um, before bed. And I was like, I don't know that I can pull that full 4 hours off. And the literature really says 1 to 2 is where, is what we should go for without being arduous on the rest of our life. And then also, what do I do at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning when I'm waking up on a Saturday morning this early? How can I make these things stick? And so this is why I thought it was important to talk a little bit about changing habits. Um, if you are interested in more in depth, I've got a couple recommendations we'll talk about at the end. So first off, it's always important to set a goal, to say, what habit do I want to um, kind of instill or start working on, or maybe change, and not just say, oh, I want to get better sleep, but be really specific, measurable, make sure that we know that it's achievable, it's realistic, and there is some uh, time constraints within that goal. So for example, I want to sleep better. Okay, so what? Great. We all want to sleep better, I think, right? That's very, I think, general and vague. Drilling it down, you can say, okay, I want to be able to fall asleep within 30 minutes of laying down. I think this is you have a reasonable time frame to expect how long it takes you to fall asleep. But we still don't have a way of kind of saying like, well, how long are you going to work on this? How long are we going to work on this, establishing this before we reassess? And so I want to be able to fall asleep within 30 minutes of laying down within the next month and consistently experience this ongoing. Now, all of a sudden, at the end of a month, I can look back and say, hey, is this working? Do I need to change something up? I can look in 2 months and say, hey, am I consistently experiencing this? Right? So we have an ability to have kind of a dialogue about how things are going. But really, to stick to this habit, to say, okay, I'm going to implement this, we need to know why. Why do you want to fall asleep within 30 minutes? Okay, so making a list of your whys is really important. And the more whys you have, the better. And this is the reason why you need your whys, is because as you go through and encounter hurdles and you want to stay up late, you want to watch the next show, you're having a really good time with friends, each one of those situations requires a different why to bring you back to achieving that goal, to instilling that habit into your life. Why? I want to feel better in the morning. I want to have better health. I want to, have stellar dreams. I want to spend more time in my bed. These whys can be as kind of silly, you might think that they're silly, or altruistic as you need all of them, right? I want to take better care of myself. I want to be present for my kids. All of those whys help feed your ability to stick to this particular habit change. And then how? How am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to set a timer on my phone so that I know I need to get ready. Maybe I need to work on my bedtime routine before that so that I can help support that 30 minutes of rest. I'm going to make sure I get my exercise during the day so that then I'm ready to fall asleep within those 30 minutes. What are the things that you're going to do to facilitate that particular change? Maybe this is something that you work on in journaling time in the 2 hours when it's kind of dark in the evening, right? When we have that low light. So consider those tools that you're going to utilize to achieve your goals. Maybe you are looking more towards friend support. You're saying, hey, I'm going to get my friends on board. I'm going to let them know I'm working on this goal. And then they say, can you help me be accountable? Maybe you ask your partner or your roommate, say, hey, I have this goal I'm working on around sleep. Could we turn the lights down or maybe have evenings where we don't have the television on? And then what? What happened? You've done this, you have this list of whys, you figured out how you're going to do it, you've done all of these things, and now what has happened? Did it work? Did that habit become instilled in your life and now you're consistently falling asleep? Or is it something else came up? You find like, oh, you know what? It's actually really hard to get the lights turned off. I'm going to move back from the sleep process and just focus on the lights. Or maybe I'm falling asleep well, but now I have trouble getting up. Now I'm going to work on that part of it and adjust those whys and those hows as necessary. So, what questions do you have? I'm curious. This is a lot of information. We're kind of wrapping up here. Put in the chat, tell me what you've got. Where are things that struck your fancy, things that resonated with you? I would love to hear, your thoughts on what we've kind of covered today. All righty. That's okay. All right. And so thank you for coming. I'd like to give you a little sense of what it's like to work with a pharmacist on our farm to table team. We are a group of pharmacists across the nation who focus on addressing root cause of our patients' concerns and help to really get them to thriving with excellent health and wellness. So first step would be coming to a class like this. We have a number of different options. You can find it on the website, farmtotable.life, L-I-F-E. We offer 15-minute free consults to make sure that we're a good fit and that functional medicine and really drilling down to the root cause can be beneficial. Gail, thank you. How to stay asleep. That can be a really tricky thing. I think you'll find if you get that daytime exercise and movement, good quality daylight throughout the day can help with some of that staying asleep. The other thing is to look at, well, what is waking us up? Is it concerns with pain? Is it concerns with racing mind? Is it maybe breathing concerns? Maybe we're getting up because we have an underlying diagnosis of sleep apnea or disordered breathing that is happening. And so each one of those would be addressed in a slightly different way. I like to, kind of work with patients when it comes to how to stay asleep to kind of figure out what exactly is waking them up. One of the things that I say that can be really beneficial, this is, on top of addressing whatever that root cause of why we're waking up. But if there is kind of this ruminating that's happening, that's just trouble falling back asleep, I have personally found hypnosis to be really excellent. You can get an app. I think there's probably a number of them. I use one from Uncommon Knowledge called Sleep Well. And they actually have a hypnosis that talks about waking up at night, and that if we do it consistently, it can become a pattern that our body's just used to. It says, oh, we wake up at this time. And so you wake up at the same time every night. And basically, it walks you through the process of relaxing again, and then being cognizant that it may be that we're not necessarily fully waking all the way up, but we're cutting into that stage one, that lighter stage of sleep. And we think we're awake. And so then we wake up because it's such a such a delicate balance at that particular point, so that this particular hypnosis kind of helps with that process of saying, you know what, we're not even going to pay attention. We're just going to slide through that stage 1 and move right back into stage 2 and 3. That can be really beneficial. If you find you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're awake for more than 20 minutes, it's really recommended that you get out of bed and you do an activity, keeping your space dark, not on a phone. So it might be some gentle stretching, maybe just meditating until you're tired again, and then lay back down to go back to sleep. That can be beneficial for people who wake up and then have trouble going back to sleep. I hope that helped a little bit, Gail. Thank you for the question. That can be something that people really struggle with. Working with members of our team, we do this initial visit, and just kind of like how I mentioned with, issues staying asleep, we would deep dive into your symptoms and history, and really figure out a plan that is unique for you to really help get you to a point of thriving. And then as you work on maybe dietary changes, lifestyle changes, supplements that you might take for a while, and then finish, within that journey, you have ongoing support and personalized plans for that lifestyle nutrition, potential some lab testing or biometric testing. And then once we get to a place where you are good, health is, coming easy for you, wellness is easy, we're there as regular maintenance to kind of help you feeling great and make sure that you have continued support. So if you are interested in diving deeper into your sleep, let me see. Yep, here we go. You are more than welcome to jump right in and book that 15-minute call with a pharmacist in your state. And we would love to work with you. So thank you so much for attending today. We're just at about an hour. I love talking about sleep. I think it's great. It's really important. And I greatly appreciate the fact that you took some time out of your day to learn a little bit more. So I hope that you get some time out moving around, enjoy the sunlight if it's sunny where you are at. And I hope you sleep well tonight. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.